11 Brewery.
Yeah, 411 Broadway Ales and Spirits. We go back
Okay.
and forth on what we actually
Okay.
call it.
411 Broadway Ales and Spirits, and could change by the time January hits.
Yeah, yeah. I think the name we're trying to shoot for now for people to call us is the 411. So.
The 411.
Mhm.
Because I was wondering if you guys were going to do something over there. Because I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. Because
Oh
that'll start
yeah,
to bring people that way too.
yeah, yeah.
Eventually, maybe.
The plan was to, but the city was requiring a lot of stuff, and the current property owner didn't want to do the renovations required. So.
And we're streaming. So just so
Oh,
you know, yeah.
yeah. Oh, go for it.
You're joining us on Facebook Live. We're going to start here in just a moment here with Business Leaders Live. Lance Cardoza, Joseph Soleno. We'll be talking about his venture here shortly when we go live here on Talk Radio 1680 KGED. 30 seconds.
From AM 1680, this is Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza, the behind-the-scenes story of the business shakers and movers in the Valley and beyond. And now, here's your host, Lance Cardoza.
Good morning, everybody. It's Business Leaders Live, and we're live right here in the studios at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. And also, you can go on Facebook. We're our Facebook Live right now at Talk Radio. That's at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. And you can catch all my past episodes that are here every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. on the Big Talk Radio. And you can catch them on the website, lancecardoza.com. That's CARDOZA.com. My guest this week, and was pretty excited about this guest because I really focus on downtown at times, and I like to look at the growth of downtown and what's happening. And one of the big things, and a lot of people don't realize, is that we're really in an epicenter of craft breweries and the ale trail and what's happening downtown Fresno. And a lot of breweries that are pretty big out there have a microscope on Fresno, really looking at what's happening right downtown. We've seen the success of Tioga Sequoia Brewing Company and their beer garden right there by Chichansey Park. Sort of the rebirth of the Full Circle Brewing Company, Zach's Brewing, which is a great place. And then you have House of Pendragon. And then you have these buildings, when you saw the Frez Yes event and that got remodeled, and there's this nice stuff that's coming. You hear it in the paper, and you hear it all over the place that there's some future going to be in that brewing district right across the street from Zach's Brewing Company. And in studio right now, Joseph Soleno. Thank you for coming in and being a part of the show, Joseph.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I had sent a message out to a good friend of mine, Talisha Brantley. Talisha, thank you so much, at Bitwise. And I said, Talisha, I'm looking for somebody. We had a guest shift, and it was very last minute. Looking for somebody, and I know you got some pulse on downtown, what's going on. And she immediately, it didn't take her 30 seconds. She had she had a text over to you, Joseph, and we started chatting. And here you are on the show. You didn't think you're going to be up at 9 a.m. Brewing is probably a different time frame for you, right?
No, brewing is early morning. If I had my choice, I'd be brewing at 3 o'clock in the morning.
It's probably 24/7.
Oh yeah, it's beer doesn't sleep, so you're always at the brewery making sure everything's going according to plan. But in the summertime, yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning, that's a given. You got to beat the summer heat.
Summer heat, that's the perfect time to brew.
Yep.
So the business right now is called 411 Broadway, and it's ale and also spirits.
And spirits, yeah.
And spirits. And if you've been down to the brewing district, and a lot of people know the name Tioga.
Yes.
And across the street, it's that iconic green and black building, Zach's Brewing Company. And that's right off at the end of Fulton there. There's these beautiful buildings, like nice shells that have been built out.
Yep.
And you're going to be in that location.
Yeah, so we're taking over 2 of the vacant spaces there. If you're familiar with the area, it's going to be the building with the big brewery district mural painted on it. We're taking over that building with the mural on it and the center unit and putting in a tasting room there.
Nice.
Hmm.
Nice. And I've noticed off Broadway, when you leave Chachansey Park and you're running to grab the freeway after a game, you go by where your brew house is, correct? And that's down the end of Broadway?
It is, yeah, closer to the freeway,
Yeah.
where the old Wilson's a motorcycle shop or Fresno Radiator used to be.
Yeah.
So it was this automotive shop that we took over. It was almost perfect to put in a small production brewery, concrete floors, everything. All we had to do is put in some drainage and start just dropping equipment, and it was pretty much turnkey for a production facility
And ready to go.
and ready to go.
So, I've talked about brewing in Fresno. When you look at the successful cities like Sacramento, it's got, and this is maybe a year ago, a similar size. The city, the metropolitan area of Sacramento and Fresno were actually a little bigger, 60 some breweries.
Oh,
And they're all doing pretty well in Sacramento. And you look at where we are, we have potential for huge growth
we do.
because there's what, how many?
Uh, it's constantly growing right now. We have, I think, a solid 10 or 12 that are
Yeah.
currently operating within Fresno County, and I know of at least another 6 that will be opening in the next year and a half. So
So let's talk jobs.
jobs, yeah,
When the county and the city look at this, and that's one of the reasons why they've embraced and trying to support this ale trail, this downtown brewing district, the jobs that this could create just for manufacturing the brewing portion of it and distribution.
right.
We're a perfect hub to distribute for the West Coast right here out of Fresno.
We are, and the amount of jobs that breweries do create, it's a wide field. We have production, management, sales, retail. So, and even small breweries have to have at least 2 employees for each department like that. So, like even like Zach's Brewing, I know they're looking for to hire and have someone take over some responsibility here pretty soon. Tioga has a lot of employees. Full Circle has a numerous amount of employees as well. And I know when we open, we're gonna have to delegate some responsibilities to some employees as well because there's just not enough time.
Yeah, and as you grow, you got to plan. And this year, if you're doing distribution or canning, and
Oh yeah,
that's a
definitely
whole
do.
nother beast.
Yeah, distribution's a whole other animal if you're selling wholesale.
So the retail focus is one of the big focuses of 411 Broadway,
Yes.
and like you said, the name could change about January 2020 is what you're speculating when you guys are going to be opening your doors and targeting that. But you're currently right now brewing.
We are. We're currently brewing. We are selling wholesale to some local bars around town, doing beer festivals, events. We do the occasional art hop pop up. And then, in addition to us brewing, we started the Central Valley's first incubator brewery program, which allows people who don't quite have the capital or the know-how to go and start their own commercial brewery. We extended an offer to people who we feel confident can actually take the next leap into commercial brewing, and they come in and they use some of our equipment. They get through all the licensing that a regular brewery would go through the federal government and the state, and basically build their own little company in our facility. And then once they have a good foothold, they could branch off and do their own thing.
Awesome. Because a lot of people, and I take example at times. Well, I mean, Michael Cruz with Tioga. He was a college kid, marketing, and
Oh yeah,
but loved beer, and they saw that passion. And there's one guy that, as a young guy, would probably take advantage of something like that. And I think Arthur Moya with
Full Circle.
Full Circle, he laughs all the time when I say it. He was accountant. This guy's counting beans.
I know
He was dreaming of brewing. I think his wife bought him a little brew kit.
Yeah, it's amazing how many different fields people come from, and they get hooked. They get bit by the bug of beer, and they just automatically abandon whatever they're doing and just jump on the bandwagon and try to do their own thing, put their own spin on their own brewery. So
Yeah.
you have Arthur, who is an accountant, a marketing student like Michael Cruz. I think there's a lot of medical and science people who abandon well-paying jobs to come and make beer.
And make beer.
Yeah.
And fulfill that void, that dream. And it's a big business. It's a big business, and the market share is there to be had. And again, I go back to it's a great job creator. And what I tell people too, if alcohol's not your thing, if brewing's not your thing, craft beer is a very different. It's almost like wine connoisseurs. They're not sloshing this alcohol away. They're going out and they maybe grab one or two. It's a great social environment. And I tell people all the time, even with Tioga and the Beer Garden, I know you've been there.
Yeah.
Everybody's been there. that you see every walk of life there. Whether you're having a beer or not, you're grabbing a taco or just enjoying the music. It's a great environment when you go out to have craft beer.
Yeah, the culture is completely different than like the how it used to be 20 years ago, where it was just all Bud Light, Coors, everyone was just drinking.
Grandpa's bar,
Yeah, just
sloshed and barely
yeah,
make it home.
that little grimy dive bar that everyone loves to go to. No, it's completely different.
Which those are still cool.
They're still cool. Don't get me wrong. I love going to a dive bar and
They have their
getting
place.
my drink on. They do have their place. But the craft beer industry, we focus a little more on like you said, kind of like the wine industry. We do have samplers. People come and taste beer.
Yeah.
The pricing is obviously a little bit different than if you were to go and buy like a can of Bud Light.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of people going out intentionally just going to get like wasted.
They're going to enjoy
the social aspect.
The social aspect
whole
of it.
thing.
Yeah, it's a big, and everybody in some of these craft breweries are very themed.
Yeah.
It's a themed event, and the first thing I'll remember when I walked into Zach's is the big chess, and I see a family playing chess, and Dad's having a beer, Mom's got her, and they're playing chess, and there's a taco truck outside, and Tioga, different pop-up events all the time, and there's always this social activity.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about craft beer too. It's not like the dive bar where like you only see adults going in there and drink.
Yeah.
You do see families going in. A lot of people bring their dogs. It's completely different. So.
Yeah. I used to bounce at a bar.
Oh yeah,
if it's a couple bars
and
when I was young.
You've seen the best and the worst.
Oh yeah, so I was there every night, and it was one of the roughest out there. So it was constantly something going on, and so I know the difference between the cultures. That you see it and you go, wow, they're a connoisseur of being entertained. Yep. And I think Tioga had coined something one time, beertainment. Beertainment, and it really is. It's an entertaining experience, even if you're not a fan of beer. When you try craft beer for the first time, you think, wow, hey, this isn't like your old beer that you would drink when you grew up and when you first started to drink, or your dad's beer. It's a different culture completely.
Completely different culture. And what's funny is that even within different like cities and states, the culture changes. Yeah. So the Fresno culture here is completely different than what you would experience something in Oregon or in San Diego.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's a good thing. You could go to different places, still experience great craft beer, and experience different people and how they experience it themselves.
So what was the bug? Because you're a young guy. How old are you?
I'm going to turn 27 next month.
27. So you're a young guy. What was it that bit? What was the bug that you probably brewed at home and you were trying to figure it out, or it was something, or you had some friends? What was it that got you started with 411 Broadway, or led you to that?
Yeah. So, okay. I don't know if I should be admitting this on air.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just a couple people out there listening, and on Facebook. I mean, you're all over there, Joseph.
But no, I was back in high school. I would go and visit my buddies in college all the time and stuff. And I remember my friend at UC Davis. I went over to his apartment, and he had this pumpkin spice ale. I forgot what time of the year it was. Probably October around.
Yeah, like an autumn type.
Yeah. And he made a pumpkin spice ale, and I'm like, I'm like a dumb teenager. I was drinking Bud Light or something. I never really enjoyed beer back then. I tried this.
You were 21.
Yeah, I was 21.
Yeah. Just beyond. Yeah.
So I experienced this pumpkin beer for the first time, and I'm like, I gotta get my hands on this. I gotta learn how to make it. I bought my first extract kit. If you're unfamiliar with like home brewing, there's a couple ways you can make beers: all grain or extract. Extract's kind of like Kool-Aid mixing. Yeah. It's still making beer, but it's not as like precise.
Yeah.
So I made my first extract beer, and it came out great. And I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go all grain. And I made the all grain batch, and it was probably the worst beer I've ever made in my life.
So that was your introduction to making beer. When we come back, we're going to take a short break. Joseph Soleno's here from 411 Broadway, and we're going to talk a little more about his experience and your venture into this new business. We'll be right back right here on Business Leaders Live. Hello, everybody. We're still on Facebook here. Still on Facebook. Joseph, say hi. The little camera's right there. Yeah. Talisha, thank you so much. So, Talisha, you better be listening.
Yeah, if you're listening. Long time no see.
Yeah. So your first batch was not good.
My first all grain batch was not good.
All grain, okay.
Yeah, and then
So you realize it's an art.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
think everyone kind of goes through that phase when they jump from extract to all grain. They don't realize how much work it actually takes to go from like complete scratch to making like a really good glass of beer.
Hmm.
And uh, so a lot of people get discouraged and they'll just throw everything away. And a lot of
Yeah.
people like just dive even deeper into researching and trying to figure out what makes beer taste good.
Yeah.
So
And then just
I think I went the other way, and I actually just went down a rabbit hole down the internet, and then
kept
just kept
educating
going.
yourself to it.
Exactly, yeah.
Ah, cool. The what is when we come back, we'll want to talk a little bit about what's unique to 411,
Okay.
right? 411 Broadway. Do you have 411, 411? What do you guys?
We'll say this is called 411.
411.
I think
So
that'd be easier.
411 Broadway. What what's unique about your brand and your beer, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But when we come out of commercial break, I want to talk about going from not figuring out the first grain beer.
Yeah.
And then what did you do next? So you went down that rabbit hole. We'll talk about that, and then we'll go into that. What makes it unique?
Cool.
And we'll go that route. In the brewing district, and again, I go back to, I think a lot of people don't realize that it's a big business, and when you look at our market share, and for distribution being a real big, we could be a big player in distribution, which we already are.
Hmm.
But the big companies are looking at us in Fresno, going, "This is a hotbed. This is a place where they would like to be too."
Right.
And there's a lot to be had when you look at Sacramento, and they're doing well. There's 60. There was like 68, and that was 2 years ago.
Right. That number's constantly growing.
Yeah, constantly growing. And there's ones that fall off all the time, but
Right.
that's a lot of jobs.
It is.
That's a lot of jobs that those brewing companies are creating in Sacramento. So I think if we are taking a concentrated look at it, and downtown being a core of this brewing district, I think it could be really big for job creation and distribution and manufacturing jobs, that type stuff, for the whole distribution arm of this business.
Right. And
So-
and even jobs aside, just the revitalization of a dying part of Fresno is
Yeah.
is pretty impactful. So
Exactly, and this is the perfect fit, especially with entertainment. If you get the Fresno Grizzlies, they're one of my close friends and clients. I work very closely with the Grizzlies. They were like the pioneer with the arrows on their back.
hmm
Then they were there way before anything else was happening.
right.
You build it, they will come. It's just taking a while. So
Yeah.
they're around now, starting to come around. So it's starting to happen. We're about less than a minute. We'll be back.
You are listening to Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza, the behind-the-scenes story of the business shakers and movers in the Valley and beyond. Once again, here's Lance Cardoza.
Welcome back, everybody, here to Business Leaders Live. Lance Cardoza sitting here with Joseph Soleno and with 411 Broadway, and we're talking craft beer. And not only craft beer in general, but we're talking about the jobs it creates, the revitalization that it's continuing to turn around. I call it almost like an aircraft carrier. Takes time to turn it around. The downtown core to Fresno. And a lot of people, they don't venture north to downtown. They're afraid. They think it's dangerous because it's the unknown. And I tell people all the time that downtown is one of the safest parts of our body of Fresno. Fresno is the downtown core is your heart, the heart to the body. And you keep that heart healthy and keep it beating, and the body continues to grow, and your city continues to grow healthy. And finally, I think city leaders over this past couple administrations have really focused on downtown Fresno and saying, what is it? What's it? And I think the L Trail and the brewing district has been a big part of that. And it's of It being the revitalization of downtown, and it'll create those jobs and living and everything else that's happening down here. And you don't have to bring people from north, but very smart business guy was on my show one time, and he said, we don't have to focus on bringing those people, but we have to focus on people that come to visit Fresno. They tell you as a friend, hey, I want to go downtown. I want to go where it's happening, where something, this cool thing is going on.
Yep.
And you hear that all the time.
We do, yeah, and it's actually it's becoming more and more popular that you hear people from out of town talking about downtown Fresno.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is hard to pull that crowd from like North Fresno, but it's not like the crowd we're actually marketing to.
Exactly.
I think a lot of the breweries can agree in downtown Fresno can agree on that. So.
And they come on their own.
They do.
They come with a friend that they feel comfortable with, and they experience it, and then it's different.
Yeah, I mean, it's great if we could pull them, if we could convert someone, be like, okay, I think downtown's changing, let's go check it out, and then as long, it's our responsibility as breweries to make it to where customers do feel safe, they do have a great time, so that way they could go back to North Fresno and then tell their friends, like, no, it's not how you actually think it is. It's a lot better now.
My experience, and talk about that
Exactly.
experience. Yeah.
So I know Zach's is doing a great job. Taylor's doing a great job. Full Circle. I know they're in Chinatown area. They're doing a great job for what they have there, and they have that new tasting room in Tower District as well. So
yes. Very cool. And so let's talk about, before we went on the break, you were talking about your first experience. I want people to know that 411 Broadway doesn't. It's not like your first experience.
Oh no.
So you're checking how to make craft beer, and you do a grain beer that tastes not so pleasing.
Yeah. So I got in over my head making an extract batch that tasted amazing, and then I decided, let's just make the jump and let's do all grain, and then without doing any further research, and tried it, came out tasting terrible. I'm like, well, what can I do to make this taste better? And I think a lot of people, when they first dive into craft beer, they make that jump and they either like give up after they make a bad batch, or actually just dive down a rabbit hole and start researching the heck out of it. And I took the latter and just started doing a bunch of internet research. I ended up getting a job at a local brew pub here. And just grunt work, like cleaning the filter, cleaning kegs. Like the worst, and still loved it.
Yeah.
So as soon as I turned 21, I took the UC Davis Fermentation Science program. And when I finished that up, I was picked up pretty quickly by Rogue Ales and Spirits in Oregon.
Okay.
And I was brewing for them for a few years. And my girlfriend and I at the time were expecting, so we're like, let's move back to Fresno, be closer to family. I was bouncing back and forth through a bunch of breweries, and I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of working for other people. I've always had the dream of owning my own business from the time I was a young teenager. And so I'm like, let's just make the jump. I convinced a couple family members and a family friend to just like, let's all pitch our money in together, and started looking. And we very quickly realized that downtown Fresno was the place to be. Like, I saw the potential. My family, my friends saw the potential. So we found the cheapest warehouse space that we could find that would be appropriate for putting in production brewery, and we just went ahead and just did it.
How long ago was that?
About a year and a half ago.
About a year and a half. That's about when I started seeing the activity down the end of Broadway,
right?
Where you guys are located. And to give people an idea, it's right where that you get the on ramp onto 41, little curve, and right there's Wilson Motorcycles was there for years. And was an auto shop.
Yep.
Yeah, and slowly but surely, I see the facade changing, and it's getting cleaned up over the past year and a half, 2 years.
Yep.
And now your sign popped out front. I think you have a sign there.
Yeah, we have a sign there. We put a coming up soon sign a while ago, thinking that we'll be able to get the tasting room in there, but some like bumps we hit the bumps in the road, and decided we weren't going to do that there, and ventured off into doing an off-site tasting room.
Yeah, and that'll be not far, just a couple blocks heading towards Chichansey Park, right behind Tioga Sequoia, with a big brewing sign. It says
Brewing District,
a big mural you were talking about. The building that's been really renovated, really nice inside. It's got 3 shells, and you're 2 of those 3 shells. You're going to make one big spot.
Yeah, so the plan is I'm actually meeting with the engineer tonight, and the plan is to put some food and a bar to kind of turn into like a barcade. If you ever been like Barmageddon, like Tulare or anything like that. pool table, some old school retro games. That's the plan anyway.
Very cool.
Plans seem to change pretty quickly though in this
Yeah,
industry.
it always does. And that's the thing, though. It's the little subtle things that you do that make you stand out from everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, and you create that little theme, and that something fun becomes the it factor.
Yep.
And but that it factor slowly could fall at the wayside. So you constantly have to innovate.
Yeah, you always
and
have to adapt.
create. Always.
I think that's in any with any business. You know, as trends start to come and go, the company itself has to adapt. So you see big companies like rise and fall because of that, and I think the little guys are just as susceptible to it.
You get stuck in the doing it, and I talk to people about all the time too. Is it's an entrepreneur, you get in this thing called the entrepreneurial seizure, where you're stuck in it. Michael Gerber, he wrote the book The E-Myth, and I had the pleasure to go sit down with Michael Gerber and talk with him and have lunch and go watch his seminars. And he talks about the entrepreneurial seizure, and to where we get stuck into working in our business instead of on our business.
Right.
And flying at 40,000 feet and looking at every aspect and where it's going in the future. We're in there grinding away, just doing what we need to do. You know, we're the type of people that say, "Oh, get out of the way, I can do it." You know, if you can't figure it out, I'll figure it out.
I think that's what makes an okay business turn into an excellent, thriving business. You need to have that big picture frame of mind to see and predict trends that are coming up. I know, I mean, the beer industry is filled with trends. How themes for bars, different beer styles. If you asked 2 years ago, the New England IPA, a hazy beer, that didn't exist. It was when it first came on the scene, oh, that's just a fad. It's gonna die out in 6 months.
Yeah.
And here we are, the BJCP and all the big name people who do beer judging just recently made it to where it has its own category. Yeah. So 3, 4, 5 years ago, it was all about crystal clear beers. Now it's all about hazies. You have this muddy looking beer that's as aromatic as possible.
And I never would have thought I would have drank a beer that tastes like peanut butter. You know,
Yeah.
it's And I think Belching Beaver has a peanut butter beer on these. It's just incredible the different, and it goes through trends. We'll be right back. We're with Joseph Soleno with 411 Broadway. We'll be right back with Business Leaders Live here on Talk Radio 1680 KGED. Hello, everybody on Facebook. Mike Bowman. Bowman's on here. Bowman's watching. Say hi, Bowman. So you can get, I share it on mine. You can share it if you have Facebook. You can go over to Talk Radio 1680 KGED. Make sure you share it and put it out there. And if you have good suggestions for guests, David Suarez is in the background here. And David, as always, we're looking for different guests to come on. And we have business leaders in the Valley and business leaders from everywhere that have come on the show and been a part of it. We've had WWE world champions on the show, to government leaders, to business leaders and young business leaders from the 40 under 40 that's coming up. We have our 40 under 40. Nominations are still open at 40, the letter U, 40.com. So you can put your nominations in there at the Business Streets 40 under 40. We're getting ready to wrap that up. I'll mention that on the air here in a little bit. So if you have a good nomination, Mike Bowman, I see you. You got to put a nomination in, Mike. You know some guys out there, some men and women that are doing it. Somebody needs to nominate Joseph.
I don't like being in the spotlight too much. But
and you're on the radio.
I know. Here I am on the radio.
Yeah. Damn you, Talisha.
No, I love Talisha. She's awesome.
She's great. She's great. I knew she would know somebody, and she's got her pulse on some downtown stuff. So I thought, for sure, she's got somebody. We'll figure it out. David had called and said, "Hey, we need somebody for tomorrow." I said, "All right, we got this. We got this. We'll be good." The talk when we come back to, I want to talk about as an entrepreneur, young.
Mm-hmm.
Was there something that clicked for you that made you, just like brewing, that was something that said, "I want to do that," or "I can do this"? There's always a bug, or maybe it's a person,
mm-hmm.
an influence that made you want to be an entrepreneur, or to create, or maybe it was a teacher or something, whatever it is. We'll talk about that when we come back and talk. I mean, it's amazing how many simple things, like a kid that dislocated his knee, goes to the doctor, and the doctor said, you should be a doctor someday. And that plants a seed
Oh
in
yeah,
a young mind. And the young mind thinks, I can do that. And then all of a sudden they've chased that and they want it. It's just little things. My daughter, we'd go to Shaver Lake all the time. My youngest one, Zoe, she loved Shaver Lake, loved the mountains, loved Shaver Lake. She's going to work at a little coffee shop there. So she gets up there. She works for the Southern California Edison and also another big company up in that Vermilion. Just landed 2 jobs, working the dream job she's always wanted to do. As a kid, she was dead set that was what she was going to do. And then she wants to work that little coffee shop, but she doesn't have time. So it's amazing when you see, as a young mind, when they target on something, they end up being passionate about it and chase it, and then all of a sudden that the dream just becomes reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just keep hustling, keep going after it.
What's funny is like once you achieve that dream, then your dream changes a little bit, and
Yeah.
then you go after it again, again, again. It's never ending. At least for me, I'm never like satisfied.
Yeah.
So,
And when all entrepreneurs aren't.
yeah.
Yeah, you're constantly chasing it. It's how I think you have to channel that and not have to. And I have a bad problem with this, is trying to be all to everybody.
Yeah.
Or all my dreams, instead of drilling down and focusing on a couple. And then go to these.
Yep.
Yeah.
Giving you the inside story of business leaders in the Valley and beyond. This is Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza.
Welcome back, everybody, in the studios here at Talk Radio 1680 KGED. I want to remind everybody, if you have those last-minute nominations, we're getting ready to make the big announcement for the class of 2019's Business Streets 40 Under 40, and you can go to the website 40.com and put in your nomination for someone that you feel needs to be recognized in the class of 2019. We're getting to the end of the year, and the big celebration is in December of 2019. So we'll make that big announcement right here towards the end of September. And it's always a fun time. We're into almost 14, 15 years of the 40 Under 40 with Business Street. And it's always great to see all these new young entrepreneurs and civic leaders and people that really make our valley go. So we're very excited about that. So make sure you nominate somebody. And sometimes you think, oh, they've been nominated before. Go in there and look at the alumni and look at the past classes at 40.com. You'd be surprised. I sat on an alumni committee one time, Joseph, and people said, oh, Jake and Irma were Bitwise. Yeah, they must have been in it like years ago. And I'm like, no, they haven't. And I remember the committee was like, what? And they all were like on their laptops like, oh, I'm nominating them. Because you assume they're leaders and they're progressive and they're doing their thing, Bitwise Industries and what Jake and Irma's doing. And really, you think those people have already been recognized. And a lot of times they haven't.
No.
Yeah, they got their nose down and they're going full steam ahead.
Grinding away.
Yeah.
No, and they've moved really quickly on what they've accomplished. It's just a few years ago. It was just South Stadium and their little hashtag that they had going, and now they have the Hive, they have Bitwise 41. I know they have a lot of other projects under their belt that the public doesn't even know about yet.
Oh, so, big stuff. And I remember them in the little building over by the Granville little townhomes, and they were right there. I first started meeting with Jake, and I knew Irma was sort of the brains behind the machine, and Jake was the sort of leading it as the voice, and then Irma got her voice, and all of a sudden this co-CEO, and really what they've been doing, and sort of in the theme of what's happening with downtown. And I've had them on the show, and we talked about inspiration and what was the thing that made them be a driving force and how they met and how that happened. And always interested what makes an entrepreneur tick, an entrepreneur that what was the thing that maybe it was several things that made them be aggressive and excited to go after a dream. And what was it for you, Joseph? I got Joseph Soleno's with 411 Brewing, Ale and Spirits. It'll be coming downtown Fresno. They're already brewing, but you're going to be opening up a retail space in the brewing district right there by Tioga and Zach's Brewing and that little area. What was it for you that was the...
It was a couple of things. I don't know if this is like really standard for most entrepreneurs, but for me, My father owned his own business my entire life. He's an export. He does exporting for like Asia,
Okay.
Egypt, all that stuff. So I saw him like manage his own business, like become successful from what he was doing.
Actually exporting or doing the brokering part of it?
More of the brokering part.
Okay.
Yeah, dealing like with like relations with customers across overseas and the actual transaction from the production facility to the port and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, so I watched him deal with that, and when I was a teenager, I got my work permit in high school. So I actually started working when I was a teen,
Yeah.
and I remember having the worst supervisor. I was pressure washing these food crates in the food production plant, and he would just give me the hardest time ever. And you know what? I can't do this. If I'm stuck with a terrible terrible management my entire life,
Yeah.
I just can't do it. So I decided from then on, at some point, I'm gonna open my own business. I still have to report to people. If you have a board, you still gotta report to the board.
Oh,
You
yeah.
gotta report to your customers.
You answer to everybody.
Yeah, you answer to
Yeah.
everyone, but
Yeah.
at least like you could moderately control it.
Yeah.
And from that like little point in my life as a teenager dealing with a terrible supervisor, I was like, I'm not gonna be working for someone my entire life. I'm gonna start my own business and at least give it a go. If I like sink, then I sink. But at least
It's on you.
yeah,
Yeah.
at least I gave it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was it. That
And
was
that was it.
motivating.
That was it,
You
yeah.
saw what your father was doing, and
Hmm.
sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And not sorry you looked back or anything, and continued to keep.
no. The
pushing
only thing
away.
that I wish is I wish I would have started sooner. I wish I would have actually taken the leap when I was younger. And I mean, there are challenges of being really young and starting your own business. Even now, like I know I'm young. So a lot of times I don't get taken seriously by like accounts or people who I'm trying to like form a relationship with. And they think I'm just this young twerp that doesn't know what he's talking about. And I mean, I probably don't. Probably don't, but at least I'm trying.
And you're learning as you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you're learning
Uh,
as you go.
but at least as far as in the beer industry is concerned, I feel that I'm pretty well educated, well rounded. So I'm still learning on the business side, and I do have a lot of great mentors for that, fortunately. So, but yeah, that was a big like hurdle to overcome. Is like that stigma that comes with young age.
Yeah.
And I feel like at least in Fresno, I'm finally done with that. I think people have kind of come to realize that I'm not some like young kid that's gonna just it's talking big and it's not gonna do anything. So,
Yeah, you're not the flash in the pan.
Mhm.
You're gonna do what you say you're gonna do, and I
Mhm.
think that's the biggest piece is when you're an entrepreneur and a young entrepreneur, you have to own your truth, and you have to
Yeah.
if that's what you're going to do for a customer, a vendor, or a relationship, that's what you're gonna do.
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah.
every little thing, any little promise you make, especially when you're young, you have to keep. I remember there's times where at last minute someone wanted to buy a keg and it's like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and I'm running to the brewery to pick up a keg to go drop off that delivery. It's if no one else is available to do it, the owner's got to do it. So
Yeah,
that's
you got to jump on and do it.
yeah.
So talk to me about you said the plans are in the making
Hmm.
of what it's going to be, and look what is the let's talk about some of your products, your beer, and what's unique about 411 Broadway when they come to this site that'll be across from Zach's Brewing and behind Tioga Sequoia, two of those shelled spaces that you're going to have. 411 Broadway. Talk to me about some of the craft beers and what's the spirits and what's the unique thing about your products.
So we're early on. We wanted to focus on like sour beer game. And we made a few sour beers from early on, and we found out that it's not Fresno's ready for it, but it's not like there quite yet. And sour beers, if you're unfamiliar with them, they are actually sour. A lot of them taste like lemonade or a little like farmhousey, and it's kind of an acquired taste. So as the culture in Fresno evolves for craft beer, the demand for sour beer will come. But uh, right now, we're still focusing on like clean beers, New England IPAs, pale ales. We do have a flagship sour beer that's a Berliner Weiss that we call Prelude, and we flavor it. It's rotating depending on what fruits in season. I think right now we have a raspberry and oh man, what was the other one? I can't remember off the top of my head right now.
So
But
it's seasonal and
yeah,
changes with the season.
It does.
Okay.
So Prelude is probably our most popular beer. It's again a Berliner Weiss, which is not quite sour. It still has a little tang to it, but you get a lot of residual sweetness from from the fruit that we backsweeten with.
Okay.
But along with the clean beers that you would normally get at just about any other craft brewery, we're going to focus on sour beers.
That'll be one of your big flagship
That will be, yeah,
products.
yeah, and sour beers actually take a lot of time to make. So
It's a unique art.
yeah, it is.
Beer.
It's
okay.
more of an art than a science. A lot of these clean beers, it's more scientific.
So maybe someone that grew up eating Sour Patch Kids, or the,
Oh yeah,
they're going to have a little bit of that flavor in their beer. They have that. We're going to talk a little more. We'll wrap it up when we come back with Joseph Soleno with 411 Broadway. We'll be right back with Business Leaders Live. Hello, Facebook. We know you're there. David, if he has any questions or anything, we'll respond to that. Make sure if you're on Facebook and you have somebody like a young man like Joseph or others that are possibly a really good nomination for our 40 Under 40. Business Street's getting ready to host the 40 Under 40 again, the class of 2019. Make sure you go to 40, the letter U, 40.com. 250-word description. Alumni committee helps narrow down the list, and then we celebrate a new class every year, so it's a lot of fun.
I've always seen those, and I never like had the desire to ever be on a list like that.
Yeah. And the good honorees don't.
Yeah.
The real good ones over the years are the ones that are like just, and there's other ones that are, they own it and go, yep, it's my time. And that's cool. I love those too. But the really good ones are the ones that are like, oh, there's always somebody better than me. Or there's, I'm not quite 40 yet. And I'm like, but get recognized now, because you never know. You'll be 39 in the moment. You'll be thinking, hey, I haven't got in yet.
This is my last
It goes that quick.
Oh, man.
It goes quick.
I don't know. I think that's saying you're saying that there is always someone better than me. I always do have that mentality, but I think it's a good thing to think like that.
Yeah, it is.
It's always making you like aspire to actually improve. Once you get like stuck, you think that you're the best. That's when you start declining in quality. So
to give you an idea, like when I started the 40 Under 40, like I say, I don't know if it's 14 years, 50. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But I was never in my own 40 Under 40. And I never even thought about it to the year I was 39. And during that class, my family put a little plaque together for me. And I was like an honoree 40 Under 40.
That's pretty cool.
And it hit me like, I wouldn't see myself, I don't deserve to be a part of that class, and I realized that those are the type of people, though, that we want to find, and you want to recognize them because they're just doing it.
Yeah.
Like Jake and Irma.
Mm-hmm.
They were just doing it, and we all assumed, oh, they were in it already.
I mean, I would have assumed they
you would assume
it.
And I looked at the alumni, and I went, no, nobody's nominated them yet. And they were like, oh,
This is the year.
I think it was Derek Franks with the Grizzlies. He was like, oh, I'm nominated. Yeah. They need to be in. And I think Jake was 1 year, and then we had Irma the next year. And
that's good.
But I think it just, you realize sometimes you might assume they've been there, but you never know. So take a look. Go on there, 40u40.com. Take a look at the past classes. You probably know somebody right now do you think would be maybe as a mentor or somebody would be really good. Even a brewer, somebody that's,
Yeah.
You never know.
No. Unfortunately, a lot of the brewers in the industry right now are like a little bit older.
Yeah. They got the ZZ Top beard.
Yes, I don't know if they'd qualify for the 40 Under 40.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're making good beer too.
Yeah, I joke all the time. Farmer Mary Alan Autry, he always tells me, hey, brother, when are you going to have the 60 over 60? Or was the 50 over 50? Then it was the 60 over 60. I think it's now the 70 over 70. I don't know, Alan. I don't know if he's ever going to make it in there, but we'll be right back. We got about 30 seconds, guys. Thank you for joining us here on Facebook Live. Make sure you submit your questions. David Suarez in the background here, Woody at the helm, and we'll answer those questions for you.
You are listening to Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza, the behind-the-scenes story of the business shakers and movers in the Valley and beyond. Once again, here's Lance Cardoza.
Welcome back, everybody, to Business Leaders Live. I want to remind you, you can catch this episode of Business Leaders Live and other episodes by going to lancecardoza.com. That's Lance at CARDOZA.com, and click in the lower right-hand corner. You see a little green sign. That's Business Leaders Live and all the past episodes. And been doing this for, I think, little over 2 years. So we have a wealth of good information and people that have always like to talk about their trials and tribulations through this whole process. And it motivates other entrepreneurs to go, you're not the only one. You're not in these trenches, Joseph.
I hope it does. I hope my story motivates somebody. But yeah, it is hard. Don't get me wrong. It's extremely difficult starting and running your own business, especially getting everything like squared away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, don't let it discourage you. Like I said earlier, I wish I'd started earlier.
Yeah.
The best way to be in business is to just be in business.
Yeah. Be in it.
Mm-hmm.
Be in it and do it. And that's what I would say too, with the challenges, like you say, you're having just now going to open up your tap room, and those challenges will just keep coming,
Oh yeah.
And you just got to be ready to take it on. And you had that dream and you knew what you wanted, just keep heading towards it.
Yeah. It's funny because on my free time, I do like some freelance consultation work, and for Stephen and Gail at Zach's Brewing Company, I actually help them with their government paperwork for their beer permit application through TTB and ABC. And I remember at the time they're like all stressed out, especially when they're getting closer to opening. Like Stephen, calm down. It's gonna be okay. I know you're stressed right now.
Yeah.
And then I signed lease on the building across the street from him, and I'm looking at all the work I do, and I was like, I went over.
Now you're stressing out.
I was all stressing out. He's like, remember what you told me when I was first opening up? I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, thanks for telling me that.
It's different when it's your own.
Yeah.
It's a different
extremely
stress.
different. So, but I mean, the stress is always going to be there. Once you overcome one barrier, the stress just changes. It's always going to be something different.
Yeah. Do you feel when you were sort of educating yourself, you're working for Rogue and these other brewing companies, you feel like you're going to school, being paid to go to school?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I don't take what I say here as like, if you're listening, as like, don't go to college, because college just wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy it. I felt like, I don't want to say it's gonna make me sound like a smart ass, but I felt like I was like smarter than some of the teachers. So I'm an autodidact, so I love to like learn on my own. I don't like to be taught something. If I'm interested in a subject, I'll research it on my own time.
Yeah.
So I felt college I wasn't ready for college. I didn't want to do it. I did do the UC Davis fermentation science program.
Yeah.
But that's not like true college. It's more
you were interested in that field.
It's more of like a technical thing.
Yeah.
And so I went and did that. Got the book smarts on it, but I never like applied it. Besides just at the brew pub I was working at, and so I got hired at Rogue, and they put me like grunt work. They at Rogue they put everyone on the bottling line first to weed out the people who won't make it.
Yeah.
And the bottling line is just the hardest job there. It's constant like flipping glass, like dealing with broken glass, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I stuck it out for 2 weeks there, and they just got a new keg line. They promoted me up to the keg line, and I worked my way up from keg line, cellar, centrifuge, brewer, and just
learning all the aspects of the business.
Yeah, exactly. And it is kind of like going to school, but working, getting paid for it.
And being paid to do
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
exactly.
I always looked at that.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't like the people who go to work and just go for it for a paycheck. Do it for a paycheck. Get a job that you actually, in the industry that you want to pursue in, learn as much as you can, absorb it like a sponge, work your way up, and then when you're ready to do your own thing, get out, and at least you've networked, you know the people in the industry, have the experience, and you're ready to go and do your own thing. And I feel like I did that when I was at Rogue, and fortunately, a lot of us did that at Rogue. Like, there's a running joke that brewery up there is they call it Siebel West, like West Coast, and Siebel is a very popular brewing university in like Chicago area.
Okay.
So a lot of the brewers that do work there end up like leaving to Budweiser or Widmer Brothers, or go and starting their own thing. So
yeah,
I did actually look at it as like as an experience thing, getting paid for it, and we actually did get paid pretty well for being employees in Oregon. So
yeah,
it was really good.
So it was a good process, and I tell people, and especially young people, and I love to talk to young people and people that dream to be an entrepreneur or Maybe they want to be a correctional officer, but there's going to come that day when they're 40, 50 years old and they're already retiring because they got in so young, and now they want to start a business.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And there's people out there right now that are listening on the radio right now that have a dream in a box, and it never leaves that box
Yeah.
until it's over.
And
it still sits in that box.
I feel sorry for those people.
Yeah.
I mean,
It frustrates me.
it does.
And I want
it
to be
does.
able to say, live that dream, go out there and take a little risk. You can continue to do what you do in your daily grind of your job, and then dream a little and create something for your family. And so it is possible. And my oldest daughter, Chloe, and her soon-to-be husband, Steve, they're going to open up a franchise. I would have never thought that 5, 6, 7 years ago. But they both worked in the restaurant business. They both worked in sales. They both worked at Starbucks at some point. So they had an education all through the process of all these different great companies, from CarMax to Starbucks to Sal's Mexican Restaurant. There was a lot of input and information to help build what they're going to do for their future.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember when I was younger, I was pretty shy. Like, especially in my early 20s, I never imagined I would be on a talk show radio talking about like this kind of stuff. But I would let opportunities pass me up all the time. I'd be introduced to certain people, and I would never take my time to go and network and try to form connections with people. So that way I have like something to go back on and like ask them for advice, or have a mentor down the road or something. That would be my biggest advice to like young people who are trying to start. Like, don't miss the opportunity to network.
Yeah.
It's more important than capital, in my opinion.
It is.
Because you have those resources to fall back on. It's like being stuck in the wilderness and not having a pocket knife on you.
Yep.
Like, just take the time to network, meet these people, form those connections and those bonds, and then 5 years down the road, you'll remember in the back of your head, oh, this guy is the sales or the buyer for Save Mart.
Yep. And that's the big thing. And they might move on to something else that is the perfect fit for you to make that connection. But the wealth in people far exceeds the wealth that you can put in the bank.
Yep.
And I tell people that all the time, that I'm probably one of the most wealthiest guys in the valley, because I'm connected to many people, and I take so much pride in that my relationships with other business people throughout the valley is one of the things I take a lot of pride in. And I love to connect other people, like you said, to go meet that person.
Yep.
You never know where that's going to go, or future customer, or they end up working together. There's been so many instances of that. That's why I love that 40 under 42. I've seen different people come in doing different things. Years later, came together like Full Circle Brewing, and 6 people, I think the number was. I'd say 80% of them were 40 under 40, and met each other through some of the classes, and here they are. They started a brewery. So I love the networking aspect and connecting, and people, you a lot of times think, oh, they're too busy. I had a Addison Van Patten. She came in here 2 weeks ago, David's friend, and she reached out to me 3 years ago, and I guess I shined her on online, and it maybe was busy, but you got to be persistent. She was persistent enough to come with her friend David, and came in here and just sat here, waited till I was done with my show, and introduced herself. And so we're starting to mentor and be able to go see some of the stuff that I do, and be able to shadow a little bit. So it's so important. Don't give up. And the other big thing, I had a client yesterday that was looking for a resume. Oh, where's that girl's resume? I need her to work tonight. I want to hire her. I can't find her resume. And it happens to us. Don't assume because you gave them the resume that they're not interested.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you need to pursue it like a sale. You need to go back.
Well, that's what applying for a job is treat yourself as a product.
Yeah.
Sell yourself. Like, no one else is going to sell you better than yourself. So go and pitch yourself to the company.
And be that. When you pitch that, you sell that, deliver. Show up and give them more than what you're even promising that you're going to take ownership of what you're saying you're going to do.
Yep.
And when you do that, big things change. That's not only in a job, but an entrepreneur in your business and what you do today. And it makes it a lot easier for an entrepreneur when you have a bunch of people like that working for you.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, I think that was the great thing about working for Rogue, is everyone in their own department took ownership. They treated the company as if it was their own company.
Yeah.
Like, nobody in the hierarchy of the company was above or below anyone else. I remember one time when I first got hired, we had our first quarterly meeting, and one of the new hires got called up in front of everyone during the meeting, and we thought he was going to get chewed out. He actually was praised for yelling at one of the more older employees that had tenure there, and we praised him for yelling at someone who made a pretty foolish mistake. So I enjoy companies who do. I enjoy working for companies who like do that because
Recognize them, but you might think it was negative, but the guy was not doing what they should have been doing.
Exactly. And I think it's important for employees to take ownership in the company. If you have someone who's just there for a paycheck and just like slacking off, then it's not going to go well for the employee, and it's not going to go well for the company. No one's benefiting off of that situation. So.
No, and it'll soon be over, and there'll be someone else taking your spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it always happens. Joseph Soleno, 411 Broadway, ales and spirits, and you're going to be right down there in the brewing district. Thank you for being on my program.
Thank you.
And would love to have you back once you're opening up your shop, and we could talk about all the fun stuff that's going on. Big stuff happening with downtown Fresno and 411 Broadway and ales and spirits. We'll see where it goes here in the future.
Perfect.
Thanks for being on the program. You can join me next Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. right here on Talk Radio 1680 KGED for another edition of Business Leaders Live. That's all the time we have. We'll talk to you next week. Facebook Live. Thank you. I got on the tail end there, Woody. Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us, and make sure you share it and put it out there. And if you have somebody out there like Joseph, and I know you don't want to be in the 40 under 40, Joseph, but someone's going to end up nominating you. But nominate them. Go out there to 40 40.com and get that nomination in, and we'd love to celebrate their wins and be a part of a fun night. It's a lot of fun and real easy on everybody. This is a big networking cocktail event, and we recognize a new class, and we'd love to find those diamonds in the rough out there. So make sure you go to 40 40. Joseph, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Yep, we'll have you back on when you get that spot open down the Prairie District.
And then come down for a beer.
Yeah, for sure I will. I hang out down there all the time. All right, thanks guys on Facebook. Thanks David and Woody.